I'm not against making life look great and, enjoy it, but let's ask some more questions. Good evening. I'm just down in Melbourne today and joined with the lovely Tiffany Cherry. So Tiffany's a former physio, but she's an Australian sports broadcaster and journalist. She's done the Winter Olympics, Summer Olympics, hosted the Commonwealth Games. Where were you working in America? ESPN, yeah, and the first female
bound right on the football, Aussie rules. Yeah.
Okay.
Australia.
AFL has to help me there because I don't know enough about AFL, which I'm learning. Okay.
We'll help you. I'll help you.
So look, I guess without further ado, we're here tonight to really talk about the behind the scenes. So whilst you're so accomplished and done so much in the world of sport, we just, I guess, wanted to get a feel firstly for what was it like as a female taking on that role and responsibility to crack into a very heavily male-dominated industry.
Yeah, it was. I saw it actually as an opportunity, and there were hardly any females when I first started. And for some reason, I had this epiphany where I could see that if I came in, I knew that I hadn't played footy, and that's still kind of rolled out a bit now, but it's very old hat. But back 20 years ago, it was like, oh, I never played footy, so you can't. Well, funny enough, Anthony Hudson and Bruce McAvaney and Devon Quartermain and Eddie Maguire and Dennis Cometti, not at the highest level. They all haven't played football. They're all like big name commentators. But anyway, I thought, well, if I came in with a different angle, and I was a physio and I'd worked for one of the football teams. I was the first female ever officially allowed in the rooms of Richmond Football Club. And to get that job, I had to give the then coach, John Northey, a massage to prove that I was strong enough.
Really?
With just him and I in the rooms on our own. So I certainly gave him a very hard massage.
Yeah, I don't know how that
to his credit, exactly, probably can't pay news, but to his credit, he didn't scream or make a sound, but he got off and he nodded to me and he went, "You've got the job." So I came in with a different skill, the physio skill, and I obviously came in understanding the machinations of a football club very much from the inside, which a footballer had also knew. So, and that definitely worked in my favour, and I was able to, it wasn't easy getting a job, but I'd sort of roll it out that I knocked on $100 and not one open, except for one ever so slightly, and I stuck my tiny toe in there, and then just prized and open, and Bruce McAvaney I met through athletics, and back then my very good friend now, but my training partner, or I was basically her tortoise, was Cathy Freeman, or Catherine, and so Catherine had introduced me to Bruce, and she pushed me forward, really shy, and she pushed me forward and said, "Macca, my friend Tiffany wants to be a journalist just like you," and I was like,
"Oh wow!"
What do I say? And so, to his amazing credit, he's such a beautiful man, so very generous with his time, and just really encouraging and engaging, and he offered to have a coffee with me. I didn't do coffee back then, but nice and short. Anyway, and so we had a chat, and he gave me some tips, and that sort of rolled into the next thing, and then actually an opportunity, he heard of a job going back then on a show called Talking Footy, and I got the job along with another guy, because they didn't want to give me the full role. Mind you, this guy, he and I are good friends now, so we split it. I did one week and he did the other, and we were just the reporters who went out and did some pickups of interviews, not picked up guys. But anyway, and then back then I was still, when I was working on Talking Footy, I was still as a physio working, and then I decided that I had to pretty much throw everything in and really give journalism a crack, and so I applied for a job in the country, a place called Prime News in Albury, in that station, and I
think we have Prime News in Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
it's
we get it where I am.
Network. Yeah. Anyway, rather than that, it was the old VHS tapes. Rather than go and put in the mail, I decided that night I would drive to my dad's place 3.5 hours from Melbourne. I got there at like 11 o'clock at night. And he's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm applying for a job tomorrow in Albury, which was an hour away. So I got up at 6 in the morning or whatever. Was in the car by 7, got there at 8:30 before it opened, knocked on the door, and I remember then they said, oh, who are you here to meet? And I said, oh, I want to give this to this guy, I won't say his name, but he was the general manager, and they said, have you got an appointment? I said, no, but I'm here for the job. And I just knew that I'd get the job. Anyway, 3 o'clock that afternoon, I thought I'd get the job. So that rolled into one thing into so basically...
You could almost say it was a bit ballsy.
I was very ballsy. Very ballsy, but you have to be, yes. And I think you have to think outside the square, and you have to create opportunities. But I knew that I had a point of difference, and that point of difference, and it's something that I try when I mentor people. I try and say to them, look, especially being a television journalist, like so many people want to do it. It's like musical chairs. You've got one chair and there's 20 people walking around wanting to get it. Yeah. You can't do it. So you've got to think, how am I going to get this? How am I going to be different? So I did that, and then that rolled into next thing and next thing. And look, I worked. People don't really believe me, or they don't really say it, but I worked for 3 years. I worked 10 jobs. 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, and honestly, I am not kidding. I did that to break because there were no females doing what I wanted to do, and my physio jobs, like half of them were for free, and half of journalism jobs were free. So of those 10 jobs, half I got paid for, but none of them were full time. They were all casual or part time, or a little bit of here and there, whatever it might have been, and I did it just to get the experience and to pay the bills.
Also, you were like I'd say you were a trailblazer. You're changing that industry. So unless you set the example, unless you take action and maybe go and do it, then you just sit around and...
Yeah, well, I remember getting the job, going back as a physio for Richmond after the coach gave me the nod. The football manager had to say whether I could do it or not. And he and the doctor and the physio, who were two guys who were very good friends of mine, they were all discussing me, and I was in the room, and I remember sort of putting my hand up and going, you know what, I'll work with a bag over my head if that's the problem. Because I was a female, so I'd be distracting the guys, and also they were naked. And then I'm like, hang on a second, does a gynecologist look elsewhere when he's, delivering a baby from a blue woman? Like,
that's the same role.
Yeah. And they went, yeah, you're right, okay. We'll give it a crack and see how it goes. So it worked. So it was a long process, but an incredible journey. And my dream was to host the Olympics, and in the end, I achieved that dream, and that was incredible. And it wasn't just the summer; I did the winter as well, which was a bonus, the Commonwealth Games, and then I was completely burnt out, mentally, physically, emotionally, in every way. And I took a 3-year break, and here I am at the back end of it, ready to launch again.
And I think you need that though, especially, knowing also just the story of having a beautiful daughter. I think without having that break also, that wouldn't have maybe been a possibility too.
No, well, sort of...
It's almost like you can't really work 7 days a week and then have that. And
I wasn't, actually no, I was. Yeah. I was pretty working. And the work was my life, and so that's the reason why I hadn't had a child up until 15 months ago. Really, it was mostly the reason because I was just working. I was so focused on that, and and I just, I didn't really give relationships an opportunity because I was always travelling here or travelling there, or I was focused on doing what was necessary to achieve my goal. And then once I achieved that, I knew that I wanted to have much greater balance in my life, and I wanted to have also potentially have an opportunity to have a family. And I also knew that my body needed to rest in every way. Otherwise, I was probably going down a path of probably getting quite sick. I never did, but touch wood. But I just was exhausted. I was really burnt out. So I had to heal and nourish my body. And everything was fantastic and fine. And she's incredibly healthy, and it's all worked out.
It's such an incredible story. And I think it just shows that all of the things that you sort of experience too, it's so not common, but it's something that people are experiencing a lot more
Yeah,
frequently
all different
nowadays
elements.
in different ways. Not to maybe such a greater scale, and certainly not in that industry, but just in the workplace
Yeah.
for females.
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me, I'm just having my cup of tea. My tea.
Yeah.
So that.
Cheers.
Yeah, but it is. It's, I think even in today's day and age, it's like there's more people entering the workforce. There's greater diversity, so there's more women, which is fantastic. But I read a statistic today. I'm doing an MBA and I'm doing a project for one of the big banks, and they've asked us to present some research findings on diversity, etc. And they said in the last decade, the amount of women in the workforce has doubled, which I found incredible. So I was like, wow, that's amazing. But yeah, it's tough out there to get ahead. But I think the fundamental thing, yes, you have to have security in terms of finances and stuff to a degree. Each to their own. I'm not here to tell people how much money to make or what to do with it, but I think you have to be happy. We don't have to be, but what's the point if you're not happy?
Yeah.
And finding the happiness, and you don't find that happiness in the amount of money you earn, in where you live, unless it feels fantastic, like unless it really grounds you, or or the extra add-ons, or the things that you have.
It almost gets to a tipping point, and they say that when you have the necessities and you have all that you need, then beyond that, it's like, well, why build your fences higher to isolate yourself from the world, or just be greedy with what you've got, just put it on the table to make other people enjoy it
and bring other people
them
in. And as long as you've got enough finances for the basics, of course, and for good health, and looking, again, every person's different. I want to have enough money that I can have a holiday, and I can afford something that's going to be a luxury item, whatever it might be. But again, it's all relative to the person that you are. But I think finding that happiness is the key, and finding your passion. And it was actually Freeman. I don't call her Kathy, so I have to call her Catherine. So it was actually Catherine I remember a long time ago asking me what my passion was. And I couldn't quite define it then, but about 3 years ago, I was able to really sort of have a soul-searching time, and I was in New York. And I kind of hit a bit of a rock bottom where I was like, who the hell am I? What am I doing? What am I here for? What's this all about? What's going on? I was really peeling all the layers back, and
I think it happens to everyone.
yeah,
And at some point you just sort of...
and that's not a bad thing. I think it's fantastic.
a great thing.
Realised that I was a storyteller. So I'm making all this up now.
I guess that's why you love
necessarily
journalism.
fictional, and it's fact. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
And I love telling. I love being the vehicle for people to express their stories, and the other thing, part of it is I love telling stories that inspire. And because I get inspiration from it, obviously, so that's the core of where the passion starts, and then from there I'm able to be the conduit for telling a story that potentially will inspire others. And so that's what I look for now. I'm still finding my way really back into what is it exactly how that will transcribe into an actual job description. I know what I love to do, and it's just it's difficult getting back or getting to that level when you've got other things like a child and whatever commitments, and I'm a single mum, so but we'll just chip away at it.
And we just touched on there Vivian. So there's a couple of things before we get into maybe Vivian. We'll say that I did see one photo just a joke was you were photographed with David Becker, and I just wondered, with all your reporting before we finished on journalism, like how do you keep your cool when you're talking to people like that?
Well, in that moment,
did you get really nervous?
Yes. Now I have to be honest with you, I have rarely got nervous interviewing anyone, apart from maybe in the very early days, which didn't last that long. And that was probably because I grew up with a number of people who were on television or, you know, who became famous or whatever it might have been. And I just sort of saw them as normal people, which they are. So, but David Beckham.
Whatever's in